Do whatever the Hyundai you want.
Hey, I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
G'day, I'm Marcus Ambrose.
Hey, this is Kenny Rose, and you're listening to
The Fuel Pod.
This podcast covers all things motorsports. It's unfiltered, it's unabashed, and
Ooh, we're going crazy. Wow, that was weird. It like cut into our intro. So welcome to 2024 in the motorsports year and obviously the Fuel Pod. So welcome back, Mike. It's good to see you, buddy.
Yes, let's do this.
Well, man, we've got some stuff to talk about. It's going to be a fun episode tonight. We're going to talk about some predictions. We're going to talk about some scuttlebutt in the paddock as we move towards the 2024 season. And we're not there yet. We're not even going to preseason until close to the end of February, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But looking forward to the season, man. Obviously, we're still a little bit out. We do have some racing going on starting today, or actually tomorrow, and we'll get to that as well. But, man, it's good to be here, and let's go ahead and get it started. I wanted to start tonight with a special edition of Ripped from the Paddock. So I got four.
Oh, no.
I got 4 topics from the Formula One website. I did not read the articles. I actually had 5, and then I accidentally read that one. So that discounts it from being ripped from the paddock. But the first one is, after their lightning start in 2023, can Aston Martin take the next step in 2024? So I'll pose the question to you.
I think Aston Martin's going to have something special for us.
Really?
All right. Well, one of them.
Okay. You talking about Alonso?
I think, yeah. I think, and when we get to predictions, I think they'll finish 5th, but they're going to give that 4th place team a run for the money.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we're going to end up being more of the same. I know Lawrence Stroll is in the middle of either selling that team or has sold that team. They're probably going to be rebranded. It won't be this year, but I'm sure it'll be in 2026 when the rules regulations change and some of the cars change. But yeah, I think it's going to be more
2025. They're moving to Honda, right?
They may, yeah, that might be the case. And we can discuss that later. But yeah, I think we're going to see more of the same. I think we'll see Alonso on the podium again a bunch this year, but I think there'll be a lot more diverse group of people on the podium this year, and we can get to that when we talk about predictions. My next one's kind of in your wheelhouse as a McLaren fan, but Zach Brown sets clear McLaren target for 2024, as he says team are feeling good about development. So I'll let you go first on that last one. I'll go first on your favorite team.
Yeah, they're yeah, go for it.
But I was going to say, so, they're coming off a lightning end half of the year where they definitely exceeded expectations. I mean, hell, I had them finishing 9th in the Constructors Championship at the beginning of last year when Hitch and I were on here. But yeah, I think they're going to start out this year as a contender. And I think Zach Brown will probably downplay it. If you saw his face last year during the car launch, obviously he was you could just tell from the car launch that he was not happy with where that car was. I think this year will be a complete reversal of that. I'm seeing them competing for podiums right out of the block, but I bet silently Zach Brown's thought is, man, we could probably take the whole thing this year. Now, if they come out with a cloned Red Bull car, that might be the case. Which I think every team is going to have basically a cloned Red Bull car, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to be an RB19.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. So hopefully the RB20, Adrian Newey, saves some stuff up his sleeve for that car, and we see something new this year. But anyway, what are your thoughts on McLaren's target for 2024?
Everything I'm seeing, they have all the confidence in the world right now. They've done some great things in development. The way they finished the season, it's I'm excited for them. I think they come out strong. I don't think they're going to be Red Bull level, but
Yeah.
I think they're going to be, oh shit, hey, these guys are ready to go this year.
Okay. Yeah, and and I think they'll be fine. I mean, we'll talk about it more. I don't want to ruin some of the prediction stuff, but the third article is after a second winless campaign in a row, can Sir Lewis Hamilton bounce back in 2024?
Man, as much as I want to, I don't think they're going to be there. As much as I want it for him, and how frustrating it's going to be to go through another year like 23, but I just don't think they're going to have it.
Okay.
I think the other teams are making bigger strides than Mercedes, and that's a shame for Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I absolutely agree with you. I don't think Lewis Hamilton will be on the podium this year. Now that being said, I'm probably playing reverse psychology with myself because I'm also not putting it past Mercedes to show up with a lights out car, and there's no middle ground with AMG Petronas F1. I think they'll either have a car that almost runs the table, or it'll be a complete shit show. I don't think there's any middle ground with that. And that's one thing I love about Toto Wolff is I think, and it's been said a million times. I mean, he's kind of a wartime conciliary. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be one of those things where he's going to put his eggs in his basket and hope he's got the fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hope he's got the fight once. So we'll see what happens. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground with Mercedes. So more on that, obviously, when we get to predictions. But the last article, and we're going to have some fun with this one, I'm sure. Lando Norris is the most wanted man in F1, but where does his future lie? So it's my turn. So I made sure I get to go first on both of the McLaren's articles. But so first off, I don't think he's the most wanted man in F1, and I could be absolutely in the minority. I think he's got some issues, but every driver does. Do I think he could do better in a better car? Maybe, but we really don't know because he's been in the McLaren. It's kind of his own fault. He's been in the McLaren since he came to racing. And, they had an okay car. Then they had a shit car for 2 years. And now we don't know what's going to happen. But, I mean, they could have a great car. Again, it could go either way. We all think they'll have a good car this year. But, is he the dog's bollocks, as the Brits would say? Probably not. I mean, I think he looks like that, but he has some of the same problems I think and I'm going to pick on my own team. He has some of the same problems I think Charles Leclerc does. Is it only takes one bad weekend to kind of set them on a spiral for 2 or 3 races before they make a comeback. You know what I'm saying? And I think that race, that wreck in Vegas probably shook him up, and it was, the race. Of course, he's had plenty of time to shake that off. So I think he'll come at it full bore when the season starts. But like I said, I think it only takes 1 or 2 bad weekends, and those guys are screwed.
Yeah, and nobody's harder on Lando than himself. He had some
agreed.
Qualifying mistakes, and he would beat himself up over it. And a lot of that he'll grow out of.
And dude, I don't want to oversell it either, or undersell it, or whichever sentence or descriptor you want me to use, but he's got immense talent. I'm not disputing that. He's one of the best drivers on the grid. So I just don't think, all the teams have decent drivers for the type of car they have. And let's be honest, Haas is never going to land a Lando, and neither is Alfa Romeo or any of those bottom feeder teams. So we're talking about the top 3 teams, and I think all of them are fairly happy with their current driver lineup.
Yeah. Well,
so, that's
for now.
My 2 cents. Yeah, for now. It's not that I can't see him racing for another team, because I can, but I mean, it's modern day Formula One. These guys don't start and retire with the same team usually. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, hell, Lewis Hamilton's been on, this is his 3rd team, I think. 2nd. He was on McLaren. He was on Mercedes. But you look at Alonso, man. Alonso was on Renault, and then Ferrari, and then Renault Alpine, and now Aston Martin. So, it is what it is. But yeah, and I wish Lando the best. I hope he has a great year, man, because he is one of the most diversified guys in Formula One right now. He's got the clothing line going, and he's got the esports team, and he's using that young person energy to kind of get himself out there and make sure I think that he's taken care of. So, I look forward to seeing what he can do this year. All right, let's move on to the schedule and talk about that a little bit. So we got 23 races this year. This is crazy, dude. So this might be the most races I've seen. If Eric was on here, I'm sure he'd correct me if I was wrong. But 23 races in a season is a lot of races. China's back in the mix this year. More on that later. Imola's back in the mix after the disaster they had last year with the storms and the flooding. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing Imola this year. It is one of my favorite tracks. But just going down through the schedule, we've got the Middle East Australia swing starting us off. Then we move into Asia and do Japan and China. And then we're doing this weird, logistically, this is going to be kind of crazy. So they're going from China to Miami and then to Italy. So, I mean, from an efficiency standpoint and from an economic standpoint, it's not a very frugal jump they're doing. And I get it. They're trying to kind of split it up or maybe hit certain towns at the best times of those towns year. I get that weather-wise, but Miami to Italy, or excuse me, China to Miami to Italy is, to me, just doesn't make a lot of sense. But
yeah, I'm just looking at the month of May there. You got Miami, Imola, and Monaco.
Yeah, Imola to Monaco is no big deal.
Completely different atmospheres.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Imola is kind of a technical track. It's got some decent speed there. Miami, I don't know. I'm still kind of torn on Miami. It's not my favorite circuit by any stretch of the imagination. And I love Monaco. It is so beautiful. And qualifying there is legit. The race, complete shit. And yet at the same time, it's a race that has to happen every year. It has to. Monaco is Formula One, as far as I'm concerned. And as far as Red Bull's concerned, I mean, hell, they build their car for it every year. So, yeah. And then June is another flippy one. We're going from Monaco in southern France to Canada and then back to Spain. So that's a weird one. Now, and then the Austria from Spain, not so hard logistically. It's just drive up the road. I mean, it's quite a bit of a drive up the road, but it's a drive up the road. And then we're going to hit probably some of my favorite ones. We're going to Silverstone in the UK, and then Hungary, and then Spa. So, Silverstone and Spa are two of my favorite races as it goes, before heading to the Netherlands, where we pretty much get. So we're going to be in Spa. We're pretty much guaranteeing Verstappen a win. It's one of his home races. Then the very next weekend, we're going to his father's home race, another one of his home races in the Netherlands. So, that's two back-to-backs. And then we head to the Temple of Speed in Monza. We used to go there in the summer, but now we're going there in the fall, starting this year. So that's kind of weird. Baku used to be at the front end of the season. Now it's at the back half. Singapore in September. That you're talking about bad weather. That could go completely off the rails.
Yeah.
Before we head to Coda.
It's like monsoon season, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one of them at least. I think they have a couple, but yeah, for sure. And then we go, of course, to Austin and Mexico and Brazil. That's a classic swing. Before we do what we did last year, we've got Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. Although last year we didn't have Qatar in between Abu Dhabi and Vegas, so we'll see how that goes. But I love.
Is there a break after Vegas? Is there a week off after Vegas?
I'm sure there is. If we're going from Vegas to the Middle East, back to the Middle East,
yeah,
I'm sure
that was a rough turnaround.
Yeah, I didn't even, dude, it caught us both off guard. I didn't even think
Yeah.
we were going to have a race the following weekend. So maybe there's not. Who knows? Um, but it'd be stupid to do a break between Qatar and Abu Dhabi. I mean, they're literally right across the way from each other.
Yeah.
So hopefully they create a break there between Vegas and Qatar. So, what race are you most looking forward to this year?
I don't know. It's Azerbaijan is my favorite. It's
Okay.
that in Monaco. I love Monaco, but Azerbaijan.
Are you basing this on sim racing or watching?
No, watching mostly.
Okay.
I'm so nervous the entire race. It's so tight in those places.
Yeah, city courses are rough, man. So the one I'm looking forward to this year is Singapore, mainly because it's in September.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens there. And plus, I love that track. It's at night. They got 9,000 plus lights. All the drivers say it's like driving in a tunnel, even though they are in the open. They said it feels like, because of the way the fencing works and the lights, it feels like they're driving in a tunnel. So I think that's cool. I think it'd be cool to be there. Even sim racing, giving us 10% of what the drivers are feeling, is a fun thing to experience. So that's probably the one I'm looking forward to. And Vegas again. I always like year 2 at a new track.
Yeah,
because now all the drivers go into it and they know what to expect, and I think that allows them to create a strategy. Because it's really hard to do that in 1 or 2 practice sessions, especially this year because they had shortened practice sessions for Vegas.
They had a shit show.
Yeah, but Vegas turned out to be one of our best races, and everybody thought it was going to be terrible, including us.
Yeah,
so
I think the organizers learned. I think it's going to be a lot better this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun race.
A lot better, a lot earlier.
Let's talk about the teams, man. Let's move into some teams before we get to our predictions. So in the top tier, and you can feel free to try to change where some of these teams are in my estimation, and I will summarily dismiss them, and we'll just move on. I'm just kidding, man. If you want to move them, you absolutely cannot. Anyway, the top tier, I've got Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Do you agree with that statement?
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
After the season starts.
Okay. So you either do or you don't. Okay, there may be a change. Okay, so obviously
now,
as of right now, I still don't think anybody can touch Red Bull. I haven't seen any of the new cars. No. I think if Ferrari is on a weekend, they have the potential to run the table, and they showed that by being the only team to best Red Bull this past season. Yeah. And Mercedes, I think, is the one that's at risk of dropping out of this group. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Either they show up in the W15 with a legit ride, or they're on the used car lot with the buy here, pay here, and trying to figure out how to win a race. So I think Mercedes is at the biggest risk of falling out of that list.
Yes.
So, which is great because in my midfield, the first team I mentioned, I think, has the biggest chance of moving into that first group, which is McLaren. And, just to be fair, I think McLaren could obviously overtake Ferrari as well. I really think if they took what they had at the last half of the season and they were able to grow that and evolve that car, and see what they found out in the wind tunnel and with whatever testing they've been doing with reserve drivers and young drivers and seeing what they can get out of that car. I think they could potentially end up being in P2. But the rest of the midfield is Aston Martin, and I put AlphaTauri up there which is a risk, but they keep saying that, and we saw it the last few races where that AlphaTauri was running pretty high midfield results. And as much as I'd like to say that was all Danny Ricciardo, I think it's more to do with what Christian Horner said when he said that AlphaTauri is getting closer to Red Bull spec.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your thoughts are. I'd like to know what they are on the
Yeah.
midfield.
You really saw them come on at the end of the year with, AlphaTauri. And I think
Uh-huh.
they got the floor secrets from
Yeah.
Red Bull, or what Red Bull was willing to give them. And I think you could tell the difference. And, they're going to have an RB19 floor this year. And let's see what it does. Danny Rick in a full year, full practice, full everything.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see what he can do.
Well, I think we're going to have 20 cars with an RB19 floor inside.
Oh yeah.
And just to be fair, especially since it's funny. I was talking to Chad, and he was talking about how he's like, I never really noticed the physical difference between the cars, and you really don't unless you really take the time to look at them, like parked in the paddock or whatever. And it's funny to watch an F1 race weekend, like during practice or when the drivers are walking around, because the drivers will walk because they're allowed to. They'll walk to the garage of a competing car and look at it. You see Lewis Hamilton do it all the time. He will walk into Red Bull's garage and go and just look at it and go, wonder what they're doing that we're not doing, right? So
wasn't Vettel like known for that?
Oh yeah, Vettel absolutely. And he would start some shit too. He's one of those guys that would go back and go, "Hey, I was just down there at
start
Haas's
rummaging around
garage,
with the tools
and they've got like some duct tape shit on the underside of this, whatever." And yeah, he was that guy for sure. But I think you'll agree with me when I say that McLaren could make that leap to that top tier, that S tier for all you kiddos out there. That S tier style racing, and Aston Martin is another car I think that could make that leap, depending on what they show up with this year. I don't think AlphaTauri can make that leap, but I think they could be up there with the midfield. If Mercedes drops into the midfield, I think AlphaTauri will be right there with them. So, but let's move into what I don't know what they actually call this group. I'm calling them the bottom feeders. The used car lot. So first up in the bottom feeders, I've got Williams. Now there's some people out there that would probably argue that Williams made a strong midfield style surge this year, and I'm not in disagreement, but there's not one of those teams above them in this list that I would put them above. So I've got Williams in the top of the bottom feeders. Yeah. And if AlphaTauri doesn't show up to play ball this year, then yes, Williams could probably move into that where I've got that AlphaTauri slot. Then we've got Stake F1, which is the team artist formerly known as Alfa Romeo, which I feel like they just had a shit year. And I want to save some of my comments until we get to predictions. And then you got Alpine, who I'm going to borrow a late 80s term that we used to use when I was a kid, but they screwed the pooch this year. Yeah. I felt like they had small signs of greatness, but other than that, it was a complete pooch screw of the 32nd degree.
I want to know if they can drive out of traffic.
Well, here's
let's get in a pack and drive in traffic.
This is what sucks, though, man. I love Pierre Gasly. And like I've said a million times, there's nobody that drives in traffic better than Pierre Gasly. But the times he was doing that, the car let him down, I felt like.
Yeah.
And yes, Pierre can step on his own toes. I get that. But that car was a shit show this year. There was a couple of times where they were both in contention for top 10s, and that car let them down. And then we saw the team do a complete nuclear fucking meltdown towards the end of the year. Art Otmar was gone. The CEO got fired. And then we had to bring in 6 fucking celebrities to try to save this team. So I guess they looked at World Cup soccer and they thought, well, since Ryan Reynolds saved Wrexham FC and got them out of relegation to the next tier, maybe he can do that with us. So I don't know who all was involved in that 140. There was a lot of people in that. I mean, wasn't it like Patrick Mahomes and Ryan Reynolds. There
Oh
was a
yeah,
bunch of people.
yeah.
I don't even want to get into it.
Half the Kansas City Chiefs, wasn't it?
So yeah, half the Kansas City Chiefs and Ryan Reynolds. So we got Deadpool and Patrick Mahomes running
Yeah,
Alpine this year.
yeah.
Now, Reynolds will probably go into it with the same approach that he went into it with Wrexham FC. Wrexham, I barely even knew him. Anyway, so Michael Henney, I don't know if you watched that show on Hulu, but you should, because that's where this is going. So Reynolds was like available for conference calls, and it felt like Michael Henney was kind of doing the legwork. And yes, they got Wrexham FC, this small town soccer team, out of relegation the first year that they were in charge of it. But I don't think this situation has Michael Henney. I think it's just Reynolds and these other cats. And I think they'll go into it with approach with, okay, you didn't succeed, you're fired. Okay, you didn't succeed, you're fired. They'll probably clean house right up front. So I don't think this is the year, because Formula One and soccer, or excuse me, if you're from over across the pond, football, you're all's football. I don't think those are the same sport. In fact, I know they're not. One is racing and the other one is a ball sport. But I don't think you're going to do it this year. Next year, maybe we'll see signs of what you guys tried to put in place this year. So it's one of those things where I don't think Alpine will be there this year. What are your thoughts?
No, I think Alpine's trash.
Yeah.
Just like they're pink.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to get rid of the Baskin Robbins car, man. They got to go back to the red map-free car. Or hell, go back to Renault and do the steel curtain black and gold. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that'll even work for me. I mean, and I love Alpine. If you're a rally fan, you love Alpine because they got one of the most legendary classic cars of all time. That Alpine 110S. But anyway, the only team that is absolutely shittier than Alpine right now is, and I hate saying this because, I'm from this country, man. I've served this country, is Haas F1. And I love Gunther. I do.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who I don't like. The guy whose name is on the side of the car. Maybe Stuart Haas in NASCAR should say, hey, Gene, the Stewart part should say, hey, Gene, how about you take a break from F1 and let Smoke run this bitch, right?
There you go.
And
there you go.
Call it Stewart F1. Because I think he would roll some heads, man. I think him and Gunther would probably get some work done. And then you got Nico Hulkenberg this past 2 weeks ago talking about, I love getting to race again, but our car sucks and the people that I work with suck.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
I absolutely
demands,
agree with him.
They have all the demands coming from the top.
Yeah.
You got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, but they're not putting anything into the car.
Yeah, dude, you couldn't said it any better yourself, which you actually did say it just now. But yeah, Hulkenberg, and I love K-Mag, but I think if we saw any signs of greatness this year out of that Haas, it was from Nico.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had a couple of top 10 qualifiers. I think he made it to P3 once even, but the car was not there for those guys. I don't know how many times you and I said they have one of the best one-lap cars in Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
But, they don't have the team surrounded. And a lot of that's money. Gene doesn't put a lot of money into it, man.
No.
And I get it. We have salary caps this year, but there's somewhere there is a major disconnect in either communication or logistics that's not getting it done.
Yeah, you have a responsibility to put a decent car out there.
Okay.
And I think that they fail at that.
Yeah, and
if
they
you
do it
be
every
Formula
year.
One, it is your responsibility to put a half-ass competitive car.
Yeah. And folks, I'm going to tell you something. If you do listen to the show or watch the show and watch it later, even if you came to Formula One straight from Drive to Survive, and you saw that first year, which was of Drive to Survive, which I think was 2018's F1 year, where Haas finished 4th in the constructors. Even then, that car was still shit. Even though you had Grosjean and you had the pit crew not tightening the tires and Grosjean wrecking every other lap one and every other F1 Grand Prix, it still wasn't there. And it sucked for him, and I get it, and I wish it didn't, and I wish Gunther had a better powertrain behind him and a better car, but I just don't see them crawling out of the basement, man. I don't.
No, I don't either.
Not with – there's a lot of teams that are making big-time strides. Unfortunately for those teams, they have a lot of competition. So you got Red Bull at the top of the food chain, absolutely dominant car, driver, team, pit crew. You've got Ferrari, good drivers, good team, sometimes lofty strategy that cause, and I feel like they've got a car that can beat the Red Bull. They just don't put it all together on a race weekend. You got Mercedes, and I'm going to get to it, but I think they're out of this group. So let's just skip to McLaren. You got McLaren that is creeping, going straight Bone Thugs in Harmony. They are creeping on a come up right here. So I think McLaren is about to turn back to their championship ways, which I think is great for the sport.
Yeah, I think they see their opportunity and they're
yeah.
spending the money to get there.
I think AlphaTauri is going to show. I don't know what they're changing their name to. They're going to be changing their name as well. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to get closer to the Red Bull as long as. And we're going to hear it this year as AlphaTauri gets closer to Red Bull. We're going to hear the other teams talking about investigations because they're going to say that Red Bull shared too much information with AlphaTauri. And I'm already looking forward to that drama because it's going to be a mess. But yeah, I think Haas
if they can point the finger at Susie Wolf, they're going to.
Yeah. Because how do you point a finger at Susie Wolf? I mean, honestly, really. I'm obviously, and my record's clear on, I'm not a Mercedes fan, but yeah, I just don't see Susie Wolf shit stinking. So I don't know how you point fingers at her. Anyway. All right. So I did a toe link drink right there, even though we haven't said toe link on it. Well, I just did. Man, it's time to put our money where our mouth is. So I'm going to run you through some predictions, and we'll start with the easy ones before we get to the hardest ones.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to put you only get one, and I'm saying that because I have to follow this rule as well. So your most exciting race of the 2024 season is going to be what?
Azerbaijan.
Baku. I always call it. I like the word Baku, so I always call it that.
Yeah.
I'll
go with that.
Mine is also not Azerbaijan. It's Vegas. So I think Vegas is going to be even more exciting this year than it was last year. I think Lando's not going to have NFL level concussion this year with wrecking into the wall, and I think it's going to be an exciting race for McLaren. All right, what's your most boring race this year?
The most boring race, Abu Dhabi, or here it is, Abu Dhabi, because everything will be settled. Or you make a really good point, and I was about to pick on you because Chad also hates Abu Dhabi, and I love that circuit. That is a great circuit. But you're right. If fucking Verstappen clinches the championship by Bahrain, like he did this year, then, which by the way is the first race of the season, if any of you are not Formula One fans, hey, he hasn't won a race yet this year.
That's true. He has not won a race, which is great news. But and Max, I'm sorry I know you're not going to watch the Fuel Pod, but man, if you do, you are an uber I bow down to you, sir. But I'm still going to pick on you because, man, you just made this season so boring, so very American. By the way, And now I know what it's like for all you people that aren't Patriots fans for the 25 years that we won the Super Bowl.
Well, you know what's weird? What's weird
yeah.
about Max is we come over here and talk and like, damn, Max won again. Damn it, that peckerhead, all this. And I talk to friends, I talk to Cody, and Max is his guy.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, but Cody's new, right? He's a new F1 fan.
Yeah. But
everybody's a Max fan when they're new.
Well, he brought up
you
a good
were
point.
too. You were too. This is like your second or third year in now. So you're like, you've actually picked somebody, and I applaud it because McLaren's a good choice. But like everybody either starts out Danny Rick because they came in via Drive to Survive, or they start out Max Verstappen because they came in via the actual races.
Yeah, arguing with him, he brought up a good point. He said, remember when Tiger Woods was so dominant?
Yes.
You loved Tiger Woods, didn't you? Yes,
yeah.
Yes, I did. What's the same dominance?
Yeah, you're right.
I'm like, well, shit, he's all right, but he could lose every once in a while. I'd be happy.
But you're right. He didn't very much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for that string, I don't think anybody won more majors than Tiger Woods for that string pre-hooker, before he met the hooker. Yes. That's insane. But I love Abu Dhabi, but you're right. And you made a very good point. If it's already decided, see, 2021, that's what made 2021 such a great year for Formula One. We went into Abu Dhabi, last race of the season, by mere points with Hamilton. And then it came down to the last lap on a restart. On a restart with questionable rules. Max did not cheat. Toto Wolff can get as pissed as he wants, but Max did not cheat. I'm back in Red Bull's play on that one. So yours is Abu Dhabi for most boring race based on season results, not on quality of racing, because that is a great circuit. My most boring race is also this is so shitty, dude, because it's my favorite race to watch, Monaco. I love watching that race because it is gorgeous. There's nothing more gorgeous in all of motorsport than the Monaco Grand Prix. There's nothing more glitz and glam and celeb than the Monaco Grand Prix. The qualifying there is the best you'll see the entire season. The race, complete shit. Whoever starts first, as long as they don't screw up, they win.
Yeah.
You hardly ever see overtaking there. So, Monaco, most boring race. Okay. Driver with biggest surprise win of the year. I know what you're going to say, but whatever, man. You know what I'm going to say, probably. Who am I going to say?
Now, I don't know. Because I don't think you're going to take a Ferrari driver. So I think that's
it's biggest surprise win. It wouldn't surprise me. Ferrari deserves to win.
Yes, they do. My biggest surprise win, Oscar Piastri.
I fucking knew it. I literally wrote it down. I knew you were going to say that. Here's my question, though. Do you classify Lando as a surprise win or not?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this, by the way, on the Abu Dhabi weekend. I'm going to bring this notebook back out. We're going to
get for real.
So you classify him as a surprise win?
Yeah.
Even though it would be his first win of his career.
It would be his first win, I think.
So you think Piastri is actually going to get a win before Lando Norris? Because that could cause some serious drama.
No.
Like Jerry Springer style drama. I mean, seriously.
Here's a prediction. I think they both get a win. I think they both get a win this year.
Okay. My surprise win is Danny Ricciardo in a Red Bull car.
There you go.
Because one of the Red Bull drivers is out.
There you go.
They're either sick or they had an injury during an off week, and Ricciardo's in a Red Bull car, and he absolutely dominates a race.
Or they're a head case.
Yeah.
And got their ass fired.
Yes, Checo. Yes. All right. Most podiums this year by a guy not named Verstappen.
Carlos Sainz.
We picked the same guy.
Oh, wow.
We picked the same guy. So I was also Carlos Sainz because I think he is silently the best driver at the Scuderia Ferrari.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Charles. You're a good driver, but we talked about this earlier with the Lando debacle. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a Carlos Sainz fan. A lot of that has to do with rally, but we'll get to that later. Most DNFs this year.
Lance Stroll.
And I'm going with still Logan Sargent. That's his new name, by the way. Still Logan Sargent.
He's making a turnaround this year.
Okay.
Well,
That's a ballsy claim. Although I can tell you, he's a guy that he knew he was on the bubble for losing his seat. And I'm betting you're taking the role of he got a get out of jail free card this year, and you think he's going to show out.
well, I'm
guessing that's what you're thinking.
I think they took him back and said, "Look, what can we do for you? You suck ass. What can we do to help you?" Albon has figured it out.
I think it's brilliant what Williams did, because I think it shows we're not going the zero defects route of if you fuck up, you're gone. We're going to tell you, hey, this is what you did this past year. We let you have this year. Now you're going to listen to us, and you're going to learn how to race this car.
Yeah.
So that's a really good way to play that. Okay. Will China actually happen? I'm going with yes.
No. I see the way COVID's ramping up around here. I think they cut it off.
All right. So, folks, unless you've been literally living in a cave or under a rock for the past 4 years, so COVID's a thing, and China, who basically designed this thing, and I'm sorry politically if I said anything that's bad, they've basically canceled the Formula One Grand Prix for COVID scares for the past 2 or 3 years. In fact, the only way you can see China is if you play the EA Sports F1 game and you get to race China, which I think is not a big loss because I don't like that track. Chad liked that track, by the way. Of course, he also likes Sochi in Russia. So, go figure. He's probably listening or watching right now, and I'm going to be in trouble tomorrow. I'm going to pay for this somewhere on the back end. But I freaking do not like the China circuit. But, yeah, it's supposed to happen this year. You think it's going to be canceled? I actually think it's going to happen this year, and I'm going to have to suffer through watching it. But it's going to be a track that is going to favor guys or teams with high flat speed. So, I look forward to the Williams car getting some good runs, the AlphaTauri car getting some good runs, McLaren getting some good runs, Red Bull winning it, Mercedes sucking ass, Ferrari being somewhere in between Red Bull and sucking ass. So, I mean, it could go either way, but yeah, I'm definitely going to take Red Bull in that one if it does happen. So I'm putting you down for no, Mikey, for that. Which team this year will make the biggest gains?
Williams.
You are in my ledger. My answer, and I'm going to let you explain your Williams one, but my answer is McLaren. But go ahead. Explain your Williams.
I think, just like I said, I think with Logan Sargent, I think they're going to figure him out where he's not BNFing every week.
Okay.
And I think I think they're going to be all right. I think it'll be them and AlphaTauri kind of battling it out for 6-7.
That's a really educated answer. I'm going to tell you, because Yeah, Williams and AlphaTauri, if both of them stay their course and improve a little bit this year, yeah, that's going to be the battle to watch.
Getting
Honestly.
Williams a second driver is key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having a second driver contributing. And
Yeah. If they can get Logan Sargent doing his part, then yeah, it'll be on like Donkey Kong for that. Because I mean, Yuki Tsunoda, and we haven't talked about him at all tonight, but Yuki Tsunoda really came on this past year. I mean, super showed up to play. And you know, he was at best 11th place pretty much every race.
Yeah.
Had a chance at 7th a couple times, I think. But yeah, I think you're right. I absolutely think you're right there. I picked McLaren because I think they're going to make the jump into the top 3 this year. And oddly enough, I feel like they could take Ferrari or Mercedes spot. And I realize that's crazy as a huge Ferrari fan while I wear our Few Pod Aston Martin colors because I'm also a huge Aston Martin fan. But I don't think Aston Martin can get this year this year, but I do think McLaren could potentially land P2.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that's crazy. If Zach Brown watched this, he'd be like, I like where this guy's head's at. I can smell what he's stepping in. Zach, I'll leave my information if you want to hire me as a strategist. But yeah, I really think, and the funny thing is, not the biggest McLaren fan, right? I think they're great for this sport. I think Formula One needs a strong McLaren. I think they're great for the competition, but not a huge McLaren fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I got McLaren, you got Williams. Biggest team loser this year.
Biggest team loser.
Yeah.
Mercedes.
You son of a bitch.
And I think everybody else is moving up. And I think they're still going to be figuring it out. What did we miss?
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. And the funny thing is, I did not put Mercedes for my choice. And I'm going to tell you what my choice is here in a minute. But as you and I have done this show, and I've had the benefit of hearing your mind work, and talking about Mercedes during the course of the show, I agree with you. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I'm still going to put my choice as Haas because I think they're the only team capable of going from the bottom to even further below the bottom. So I think Gene Haas will pull out this year. I think Gene Haas will pull out this year.
There's a new team coming in. And yeah, I think you're right.
I think
they get kicked to the curb or he pulls out completely.
And I hope they don't take Gunther with them, but I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it typically goes. But I think Haas. I think this might be their last year. So we'll see what happens if they become Andretti F1 or whatever, or another works team. I'd like to see another works team. That would be great. But anyway, that's who I picked. But now on to the biggest freaking prediction that matters. Is our ranking from 1 to 10 on the Constructors. I tell you what, I'm going to let you go Drivers' Championship first. And all you need to do is give me your top 3 on Drivers' Championship.
Top 3 drivers.
Drivers. Yeah, top 3 drivers.
Max Verstappen.
Okay.
Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz.
Oh, okay. Mine is Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris.
All right.
That is mine. All right. So that being said, let's go through our our run through for teams for the Constructors. And we'll start with number 10. Who's your number 10 team?
Haas.
Okay. Number 9. And you can elaborate, by the way, anytime you want.
Stake F1.
Okay.
I think they're kind of in a holding year, but I still
Okay.
think they're not going to suck as bad as Haas.
Number 8.
Alpine.
Okay. Number 7.
So 6 and 7 can flip flop back and forth.
Okay,
But I'm gonna go solid. I'm gonna go solid. I'm gonna go solid AlphaTauri.
Okay. Number
6
6.
Williams. Now, okay. So in the AlphaTauri, here's the reason.
Okay.
Danny Ricciardo, I don't think is going to be there all year.
Dude, you are a Ricardo hater, bro.
No. I think Ricciardo is going to be in a Red Bull at the end of the year.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's different. Okay. I don't disagree with you, but I don't know if it's going to happen. I'd love it to happen, but I hate, leaning on what I want to happen. You know what I mean?
I think Checo is going to have a breakdown. I think he's going to do the same thing because Danny Ricciardo is still going to be on the grid.
Yeah.
And he can't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's coming after your seat, buddy.
All right. So number 5.
Number 5, Aston Martin.
Wow, man. What a dick.
With a real close, it can battle it out with.
I'm guessing number 4 is Mercedes.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 3.
McLaren.
Okay. Number 2.
Ferrari.
And number 1, Red Bull.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go in reverse order, simply because you presented such an incredible list that I want to go through this. So my number 1 was Red Bull, which was yours. My number 2 was McLaren, which yours is Ferrari. My number 3 is Ferrari, which yours is McLaren. My number 4 is Aston, and 5 is Merc, which you had flip-flopped.
Yeah.
My number 6 is AlphaTauri, and my number 7 is Williams, which you also had flip-flopped.
Mm-hmm.
But my number 8, 9, and 10 is exactly the same.
Oh, wow.
So I got to tell you, as a friend group, and I'm sure Chad would probably have the same list, and I'm sure Eric would too. It just goes to show you, you communicate enough as friends about this sport. I think we kind of at least all get in the same ballpark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was kind of surprised you put Ferrari ahead of McLaren. I figured you'd homer out and go McLaren instead. And I was really surprised. I wasn't as surprised with your Williams AlphaTauri because I almost went that way as well, as I was with your Aston Martin Mercedes. I really think Mercedes, I hope they don't. I hope they show up with a crazy-ass car that pisses me off and makes everybody else in the paddock go, where the hell did you guys come from? But I really don't think they are.
Well, here's the deal. If they don't have it,
yeah,
how miserable is George Russell going to be around?
George Russell is, well, dude, the only thing you can guarantee in a Formula One season is George Russell being a whiny bitch.
Yeah, and Hamilton's going to get tired of it. Say, listen, shut up.
And I agree. I don't agree, but I am comfortable enough with the fact that they say that they get along okay. But, George Russell is one of those guys. Here's a 20-something coming to a board meeting going, you suck. These guys need to go. Let's bring in the guys that, it's one of those things. And I'm not a huge Russell fan, but and again, like Lando and like Max, I know he's uber talented. I know he just wants to win championships. And I also know that the window for a driver to win a world championship is really small. It's probably smaller in Formula One than it is in any sport. I mean, you look at NASCAR. You can win a NASCAR championship pretty much up into your mid-40s, right?
Yeah.
IndyCar, late 30s maybe, still win a championship. Formula One is, look at Lewis Hamilton, man. He's 40. He hasn't won a race. Hasn't won a race in 2 years. And before that, he was, he won 7 consecutive world titles. I mean, the
Yeah.
numbers, math does never lies, man. Math never lies. So
Well, eventually Russell's going to have to do something besides whine.
yeah,
Lap one, every race, he's grabbing, tell Hamilton to move over. I'm faster. Why won't he just move over? Dude, if you want by, goodbye. But do something besides whine.
yeah. He would say that if he was in P7 and Hamilton was in P2. Can I get Hamilton to move over, please? I'm faster. Well, we need you to get to P3 first,
Exactly.
and then you can do your thing. But yeah, it's crazy, man. So let's real quick, man. I really wanted this to go shorter than it went tonight, but it's been a solid show, dude. So, what did you have anything for WEC tonight?
Real quick, we're 14 days, almost exactly 14 days from 24-hour Daytona,
Okay, yeah, it's a
which is
huge
coming up.
deal.
IMSA race, the Rolex 24. That's going to be awesome.
I know we got
Uh,
Mustang showing up for the first time in years on that, so
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
that's obviously a big deal.
And WEC, we're going to 8 rounds. We're going to start March 2nd in Qatar, I believe, right?
Yeah,
What's fun about that is there's only hypercars and GT3s this year.
yeah, but
And the
we added a
hypercar,
bunch of teams that haven't been in it for a long time.
yeah,
Alpine being one of them.
yeah, 19 hypercars on the grid. BMW, Lamborghini,
We got Grosjean running
Alpine.
WEC this year, so we're guaranteeing some good wrecks.
Oh my goodness! And you know what? I tell you what, I think it's Ferrari's year in that hypercar.
Oh,
I
you think they're
they
going to
might.
beat Gazoo, man?
I
mean,
think so because
they did this past year in a couple races, so
I think it's the curse of Nick DeVries.
yeah.
I think he's going to tear up one of those Gazoo cars, and
Yeah. Yeah, anytime you get the 47th chromosome in there, it's probably going to be a bad deal.
yeah. One last thing, F1 Academy 7 rounds. We're starting March 7th in Jeddah.
Okay.
They're all driving the liveries of Formula One cars, so should be fun to follow.
Yeah.
It's different. The girls can race, and I think it's their F1 second race in Jeddah. So the second F1 week, they'll be part of the weekend.
Yeah, it'll
And,
be interesting, man.
Yeah.
Really good to see. I mean, the amount of female support and drivers in as we move forward, man, in whatever Formula Series you're interested in. So,
Mhm.
Seeing the likes of Bianca Bustamante and some of the others, to name a few. But, dude, we have Dakar. They did the opening ceremony of the Dakar Desert Rally. They're starting on the 6th, which for us will be the 5th, because they're basically going the entire breadth of the Saudi Arabian desert. So they're probably in the bivouac tonight, enjoying some good food and
Mhm.
probably stories from Dakar deeds done good and brave by some of the classic old fogies that are there. 418 vehicles are going to take
Oh my
the
goodness.
start flag, and that's divided amongst raid trucks, cars, some classic
Bikes.
rides, 132 motorcycles taking the starter flag. We also have 2 classic, legendary Porsche 959s in the classic Rothmans livery that are competing in what's called Classic Dakar, which is for all the classic cars. So that's going to be exciting. Some notable faces that I know you've probably heard of. Sebastian Loeb from World Rally Championship is competing. Carlos Sainz Sr. is competing again for what is probably the 48th time he's done it. Who knows? And then the only professional driver to actually interact with the fuel pod, Tim Cornell, is back again. So if you get a chance, man, send him a tweet today or tomorrow and wish him luck. And I'll try to do the same. And anybody else that watches, because he interacted with the show a couple times, and he's got a lot of stuff going on outside of rally that is really interesting and cool. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how he does this year as well, and I'm sure he's probably racing it with his brother.
Yeah,
so
where's
it's
the
14.
best place to catch that?
Well, your best bet, unless you pay for that stupid, and it's so retarded, that what is it, Flow Sports or whatever, that
Yeah.
that charges like $149 a month to watch this stuff. But your best bet is really to catch the YouTube highlights.
YouTube highlight. Okay.
Yeah, because they'll do stage highlights every day. And as I mentioned, this is a 14-day race. It's 7,860 kilometers, which if you're in this country, it's 4,884 miles, 12 stages. It is insane. It's probably the most insane race in the middle of the desert. A couple of days they're doing the 48-hour cannon start, where wherever they fire off the cannon, everybody's got to stop dead where they are, and then they can't start until they hit
break out the
cannon
camping
again.
gear.
Yeah, break out the camping gear. And obviously, any service to the vehicle has to be done by the driver and the navigator until they get to bivouac. Once they get to bivouac, they'll have a service truck. But anyway, crazy race. I've been keeping up with it myself since I was probably in my 20s, man. Simply because of the length. I mean, it's literally the closest thing we're ever going to get to the Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. So even though it's in the desert.
I've been reading stories of people getting lost.
Oh, it's crazy, man. There's a famous story. Margaret Thatcher's son.
Okay, yeah.
When she was Prime Minister of Great Britain, her son got lost during the Dakar Rally.
It was lost for days, wasn't he?
Yeah, lost for days. And she was already in the middle of a crisis in the country with a queen that was trying to learn to understand her and couldn't. So I'm sure she went through hell. So the Iron Lady was obviously shooken. So anyway, we got WRC starting up on January 25th with the Rally Monte Carlo, which is in Monaco, by the way. And it's surprising to me that both the hardest race for F1 and for Rally are both in Monaco. So anyway, that one's starting up on the 25th. We don't have NASCAR until February 4th at the Clash at the Coliseum, which is the biggest gimmick bullshit race on the NASCAR schedule. I don't know why they didn't just keep it as the Daytona 500 to open the season. So it's terrible. And then IndyCar doesn't start till March, so we're kind of hosed. But man, hopefully this week we'll get some car launches for 2024 for F1. And that's kind of what we're going to be covering on next week's episode. And then obviously we'll be doing we'll start our preview for WRC, the Rally Monte Carlo, and then probably our results are getting close to our results for Dakar Rally. So we'll move it forward from there, man. Yeah. So
I'm ready.
Great show.
Ready to see the liveries.
Yeah, me too, dude.
You see Toyota Gazoo.
Huh?
Look, their Gazoo Racing, their hypercars and their rally cars are all black.
Yeah, that's what we ought to do next week is try to pull up all the whatever we got available for liveries for all the series and see what we can go through.
The Alpine hypercar looks good.
Yeah, we'll do a catwalk runway for all these liveries and see what we can come up with. But man, thank you very much, Mikey, for being here tonight. It's been an awesome show. It went about 20 minutes longer than I wanted it to go, but here we are. We're happy to be back, folks. Please tune in this week and next week as we move forward into the 2024 motorsport season. I'm JNeil729 on Twitter, and this is my friend and colleague at 2Diddy4. Please hit us up on Twitter, send us some DMs, send us a tweet, let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear on the show. Make sure you like us and subscribe and follow and turn on your notifications. Mikey, you got anything?
That's it. Nothing. I'm out.
All right, man. Let's call it a day, brother.
Good deal.